Well, guys, if you didn't miss college football during this offseason or the COVID delay, then this weekend absolutely should have changed your mind. This weekend was full of breakout performances, upsets, and just amazing college football all around. And now the Bluebloods are here to bring you all the information you need to wrap up an exciting weekend of just pure amazing college football. We're going to start with our Pick 6 +2 games, which were arguably the best, most important games of the weekend. And then we're going to move on to breaking down some of the chaos or struggles that the top 25 teams face this week. We're going to have a full show today, guys. So let's go ahead, kick this one off. Man, week 4 delivered more than anybody could have ever asked for, and now we get to talk about all these amazing games here. In case you're new, we had Pick 6, where we picked 6 of the best, most important matchups for the weekend, made our predictions. We picked 2 extra ones this weekend, so Pick 6 +2. And, like Brandon said in our intro last episode, we converted the 2-point conversion, and so did my Auburn Tigers on their first touchdown, but we'll get to that one. Brandon, let's go ahead and start with one of the biggest statements of the weekend down in Oxford, Mississippi, where the Florida Gators started their 2020 run with an impressive performance and win over Ole Miss. What were your thoughts on this game, and how about that kid Kyle Trask that everyone doubted?
Look, Florida looked really good, obviously, but we all expected Florida to look really good. My main takeaway from this game is how good, honestly, how good Ole Miss looked. No one expected them to come out and play the way that they did this weekend. Elijah Moore was on fire all game long. John Rice Plumlee looked amazing. I don't know. I feel like we should definitely be praising Florida right now, but Ole Miss, they played well. Like I said, no one expected them to win, but they played a lot better than I thought they would.
1,000%. I thought they did really good for not a first-year head coach, but a debut for a coach at a program that I would say, Brandon, I would say this program's faced a lot of scrutiny in the past, 5-6 years. They had lost the scholarships, they've lost players, they've lost a really good coach in Hugh Freeze, they've lost quarterbacks like Shea Patterson. But like you said, Elijah Moore, elite football, man. 22.7 yards per catch. I thought Matt Corral looked much, much improved. I think he could be the best option for the quarterback for the Rebels. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think he offers more. He's not as fast. He doesn't have that 4.4 speed, but he's definitely the more elite passing option for this offense compared to John Rice Plumlee.
No, absolutely. While I did want to talk about Ole Miss first, I feel like we should spend the rest of the segment on Florida because, good Lord, this team looked good.
Kyle Pitts and Kyle Trask. Holy crap. Listen, hashtag Kyle Trask for Heisman exploded onto the scene this weekend. He should be in the top 5 right now for that. And Kyle Pitts, Brandon, we're going to talk about these two guys later, but De'Aaron King and Brevin Jordan thought they were the best QB tight end duo in the country. I don't know if they're the best tight end QB duo in the state.
Right. No, Kyle Pitts makes things just unfair. He brings his offense to a whole new level.
It's really absolutely ridiculous. 8 catches, 170 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Brandon, I know we talked about in our SEC preview about how he's a matchup nightmare. I think we might have even understated how valuable this kid is. Who do you trust to guard someone with his size and his athleticism?
Derek Stingley, maybe.
If he doesn't have the flu.
Dude. Kid's got it bad, man.
Yeah, it's a bad weekend for him. But Brandon Trask, over 70% completion percentage, 416 yards, 6 touchdowns. For me, Brandon, the things that stuck out to me, his accuracy, his explosiveness, and he just constantly created play after play. And last year, I don't know if you got this, Brandon. Last year, he just didn't seem to be the true leader of Florida. I feel like LaMichael Pirine and some other players more seemed to lead that offense, but I don't think there's any doubt right now that he's the leader of this Georgia team. And Brandon, after this weekend, I don't think he left any doubt in anyone's mind outside of Starkville that he's the best quarterback in the SEC.
Right. No, he looked incredible. and I'd take him. This is a very sensitive subject for me, Zach, but I'd take Kyle Trask over KJ Costello any day. I think there's a whole different conversation that we need to have, but Kyle Trask is incredible, man.
We'll get there, but Brandon, the thing that kind of worries me, I mean, I couldn't really tell. Is it the weird offseason? What exactly is it? But this Florida defense didn't look as good as I thought they would. They did have some stars that played well. I mean, Ventrell Miller at linebacker, 15 total tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. Brenton Cox Jr. played great, had 8 tackles, a sack, 2.5 for loss. And then Kaiir Elam also had 7 tackles and a pass breakup. But overall, as a unit, I felt like they left a lot to be desired, Brandon.
No, they did. I mean, overall, they only had 2 passes defended, on this whole team. So that's a tough look. I mean, especially when we're sitting here hyping up this secondary so much, like we have been all off season. So I don't know, man. I don't want to downplay the greatness of this defense at all, because they are really, really, really good, and they might be the best defense in the SEC. But we just didn't really see that caliber of play out of them this weekend.
No, and I think it had more to do with Matt Corral. I mean, we're going to shift back to Ole Miss real quick right before we move on. I mean, Brandon, I looked at his passing breakdown from Pro Football Focus. I mean, across all the different zones, 20-plus yards down the field, he combined 5 for 7, 218 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
He was one of the highest graded quarterbacks down the field over the middle. And that's something where I know we ranked Ole Miss very low in our preseason rankings, but Matt Corral brings a whole nother level of offense where we thought John Rice Plumlee was going to get the start.
We did. And it's crazy that he didn't, but Matt Corral
but he's not throwing 20-plus yards down the field, especially 5 for 7 over the middle against the Florida defense. But
no.
I mean, overall, Brandon, I think both teams performed well. I think the Gators are well on their way to compete for an SEC title, especially looking at some of the other performances of teams that we thought were going to compete with them. I think Ole Miss is rebuilding, but they have a lot of great pieces to build on, Brandon. You talk about Elijah Moore. You talk about Matt Corral. That defense has some players on it. They got to be more consistent. The Gators have to find more production in the run game. I was not impressed with the running back play. I thought they might have had some few options to replace Piron. Not super confident on that now, but Brandon, Florida moves on to face South Carolina next week. Ole Miss travels to Lexington to face the Kentucky Wildcats, but let's move to another 2 teams in the state of Florida. In Florida State at number 12, Miami, 52-10, beat down by the Hurricanes. And Brandon, I want to start with this. I don't think this was surprising in the slightest, because we have arguably, Brandon, I think you could say Miami's been the most impressive team of 2020 so far. And they were going up against the biggest disappointment in college football. And I tweeted this out after the game, Brandon, because I watched this entire game. Florida State really might not win a single game this year. And I'm so serious on this. Brandon, they have Jacksonville State next week, and I think Jacksonville State should be the favorite in that game.
Look, I'm not trying to brag right now. I am 6-0 in my gambling corner picks, so that's pretty sick or whatever. I might have to choose Jacksonville State in that game. I might have to. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to make it happen, but I don't know. I mean, I don't make the rules.
They have not released a spread last time I looked, so I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I would imagine it can't be over 14 for Florida State, right?
You would hope not. You would really, really hope not.
Especially because Jacksonville State's the same team. They almost upset Auburn a few years back. They upset Ole Miss, I believe, and they always seem to be 1 or 2 plays away from upsetting these big teams. And I don't have any faith in Florida State to pull this out, at not even in the slightest. But Brandon, let's get to this game at hand. De'Aaron King, man, I don't think I'm running out of words to describe how good this guy's been playing.
Well, the thing is, usually, or I'm not going to say usually, but a lot of the time when you see these quarterbacks that are these dual threat guys, they're really good at using their legs, and then they can also, they're decent at passing, or they're a good passer, but they can also surprise you with their legs. Derek King is great at both. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't really have that weakness. He's a true dual threat quarterback, and emphasis on threat because he's going to take it to the house most of the time.
As Baker Mayfield would say, he woke up feeling dangerous, and that's every single day. I mean, this dude almost 300 yards passing again. He led the team in rushing with 65 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns. He just has an outstanding ability to attack the entire field, Brandon. It keeps the defense guessing to where this offense is going to attack next. Rhett Lashley has been a godsend for this offense as the offensive coordinator. And Brandon, on passes between the numbers, 10-plus yards downfield, he graded out at a 95 by Pro Football Focus.
Yeah,
he was 5 for 9, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in that area last night. And being the leading rusher for the Hurricanes, averaging over 8 yards per carry shows how dynamic he could really be if the defense he's playing isn't disciplined, which don't even get me started on Florida State's defense. But Brandon, I mean, Cameron Harris had an off night, and I was interested to see how King will respond with Harris not playing at his full potential. Well, Donald Chaney and Jalen Knighton still combined with Harris and King to get over 200 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. That just shows how deep this Miami team really is on offense.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They looked incredible all night long, and the score indicates that 52 to 10 is that should be illegal in a rivalry game.
And this defense, man, this defense is a serious problem. And Brandon, this is going to sound crazy. I think we're going to talk about another team who has an argument to be up here too. I think this could be arguably a top 2 defense in the ACC right behind Clemson. They got players everywhere. We're going to talk about another team, Pitt, who also has that argument. But Miami this weekend, Brandon, 6 sacks by 6 different players, 13 tackles for loss, and 7 quarterback hurries, along with 3 interceptions by 3 different players. So it's not just 1 or 2 players dominating. The entire defense is dominating in these games.
Yeah. No, I mean, they looked great. I mean, I'm not going to say this is like they're like the strongest point of this team, but it's definitely up there. I don't really see a weak part of this team. I mean, special teams, offense and defense are all incredible. And
the kicker's a whole unit.
Oh
the kicker's a unit.
It's kind of scary, really. I mean, you don't want to run into that guy in the street is all I'm saying.
No, and Brandon, I just want just a quick hypothetical before we get to the dumpster fire that is Florida State. How scary would this defense be with Gregory Rousseau?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't even want to think
nightmares. About it. I mean, they're averaging like 5 sacks a game this year without their best player.
Yeah,
I mean, Jalen Phillips stepping up, Nesta Williams stepping up, Quincy Roach doesn't have to step up. We knew what he brought to it, but I mean, they're 6-7 deep on the defensive line, making play after play. I mean, Jalen Phillips at DN had a tip one-handed interception, 20 yards in the backfield last night.
Right. I mean,
and then got kicked out of the game.
Get out of here.
He got 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, one on a BS celebration with the chain, which I thought was ticky-tacky. But, Brandon, we got to talk about Florida State. We've done it week after week. This is the biggest dumpster fire in college football, and I don't even think it's a debate anymore. I mean, Brandon, I got some things where these are 3 things that I think encompass Florida State. Undisciplined football. 12 penalties for 113 yards, Brandon.
Yeah.
Against a top 10 team. And you thought you were going to win?
I don't know how.
I mean, and Brandon, we've seen over the past few years, dating back to even Jimbo Fisher's tenure, lack of discipline has hurt this team on and off the field consistently. It's every year. And then another thing, Brandon, I love this. I love the name of this one. Always potential, never production.
Yeah.
And we talked about how they had a top 10 ranked preseason defense in the country, but last night, over 500 total yards allowed. They had 52 points scored on them, over 200 yards rushing, 300 yards passing, and Miami, Brandon, in the first half scored on every single drive.
Yeah, I mean, they looked incredible. I don't know what else to say.
No, and listen, we're going to end this off here. Y'all know who I'm about to address. He knows it's coming. Y'all know it's coming. Florida State knows it's coming. Can we please stop putting James Blackman in the game? Jesus Christ, this kid is garbage.
They did try out other quarterbacks, which is pretty refreshing.
Worse. Well, and both backup quarterbacks threw interceptions. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions between the 2 of them.
I mean, are you kidding me? We got to witness another 29 QBR game.
I mean, I guess we found out why James Blackman's playing. Apparently, they just don't have any quarterbacks who can play.
Listen, I think they should go the Kentucky route. Put a wide receiver back there and just run read options all game. That will get you more wins.
It will.
Or a triple option. Call up Army. Figure out how to do it. You got an in-conference rival who beat you a couple weeks ago. Call Georgia Tech. I'm sure they got the playbooks back in the closet somewhere. I mean, Brandon, 120 passing yards, a touchdown and interception, while averaging 4.6 yards per pass.
Right. Dude.
And Brandon, I was looking at his passing breakdown at Pro Football Focus. They have projected NFL passer rating, which is on a different scale than the college. They only give him above a 100 in passer rating at the line of scrimmage between the numbers. So it's like screen dump offs. It's the only one he ranks decently at. And at that, I guess, level, right at the line of scrimmage, he still only grades out at a 68.
That's insane.
And it passes 10 plus yards down the field, Brandon. Blackman was 1 for 10, 15 yards and an interception.
That's crazy.
That worst in the country by far. This kid is horrible. And listen, I know some people are like, man, like you can't do it. Yeah, that's a fact, but I don't have a scholarship to Florida State to do this.
I don't know. I feel like if it was just pass dump offs, I could probably do that.
Like also probably a fact.
Fully confident.
I mean, enough on this, man. I don't want to beat Florida State up too bad. I've already had enough of them. I hope we never have to. Brady, can we make an agreement here? We're not going to cover Florida State anymore.
It's so much fun, though. It's every single time that we do it, it's hilarious. It makes me laugh every single game.
That's true. But, guys, Florida State, like I mentioned, hosts Jacksonville State next week in what I'm sure to be an upset watch potential game while Miami gets a bye week, Brandon, before heading on to take on the Clemson Tigers in 2 weeks. That is going to be an outstanding game. And I don't know. I am more excited for that game than just about anything this year because that is going to be one hell of a game. And we're going to move on here to a game probably we're not going to spend too much time on, but it's number 22 Army and number 14 Cincinnati. Cincinnati came out with a 24-10 win over Army. So, Brandon, your thoughts on this game and the Bearcats?
I'll be honest with you, Zach. I didn't really get to watch this game. I looked at the stats afterward, but I don't know. I mean, Cincinnati looked good. I mean, I'm mad at you for tricking me into picking Army in this game. I'll say that. I mean, other than that, I mean, Army didn't look bad though, did they? No,
they jumped out early with a defensive touchdown. They've scored a defensive touchdown in every single game this year,
which is great. But Cincinnati is just Cincinnati, man. I mean, what can you do against this team? And like I said, I can't speak too much on it because I didn't watch it, but Cincinnati is apparently still pretty good. I mean, I feel like we knew that from last season, and they didn't really lose a whole lot. So yeah,
No, and I mean, it was all about Desmond Ridder, as you probably could imagine. I mean, his ability to lead the team down the stretch in close games is outstanding. 250 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception, but he averaged about 7 to 8 yards a pass. Not bad. And he just seemed to make plays to keep Cincinnati alive. Jerome Ford is beginning to find his rhythm, but I still need to see more, Brandon. Only 8 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. I need to see him carve out this role in the offense because Ridder cannot do this alone in conference play. And Christian Anderson for Army been spectacular all year, but he could not find a lot of room. The Cincinnati defense was outstanding. He had 80 yards rushing, and threw for 94, but he only averaged 3 yards per carry for Army. That's not very good. He had a costly interception as well. The Cincinnati defense, man, under 300 total yards allowed to Army, and held them to less than 200 yards rushing, forced 2 turnovers, 3 for 13 on third downs, and 0 for 2 on fourth down. This Cincinnati defense could be the reason they win the AAC. We know Memphis hasn't looked spectacular. They lost Kenneth Gainwell. UCF has a really, really good offense. That's going to be a battle between Cincinnati and them. But this Cincinnati team looked very impressive, Brandon. But Army hosts Abilene Christian next week. Probably going to be a riveting game there. Cincinnati hosts USF next week in their AAC conference opener. That should be an interesting game. USF doesn't look great, though, so Cincinnati should pull out the win there. But we're going to move on to Brandon's second favorite team this weekend. And the second reason this weekend his heart was ripped out of his chest, and that's the Texas Longhorns escaping Lubbock with a 63-56 overtime win over Texas Tech. Brandon, how did Sam Ehlinger and the Longhorns pull this one off?
I honestly have no idea. Once again, I did. And the reason I didn't watch these games is because I was at Tiger Stadium this weekend. So I was kind of following along with this, as the scores go up on the side of the stadium, and between like my friends bullying me over the result of the LSU game. We'll get that in a second. So I didn't get to see it. I mean, I saw the score and I kept seeing that Texas Tech was in it all game long, and I guess my favorite thing from this game was. I guess it had to be Alan Bowman throwing up the horns down and then just getting beat. Like they were winning by what? It was like, was it 2 scores with like 3 minutes left? Yeah, he throws the horns down and then they get beat. So that's a tough look. I mean, you got to hate that for this kid.
The horns down curse lives on, man. West Virginia did it too with Stills. It's not good.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire did it, and
that's true.
I guess they're cursed this season.
I'm about to say LSU's paying for it now. I was say they might be glad that game got canceled. How bad would your heart have been ripped out if y'all would have lost to Texas this year?
Zach, I don't know. I would like to opt out of that question if possible.
Okay, well you can opt out once COVID ends. It's coming back to you, but Texas scores 21 unanswered in the final 3 minutes to overtime. But Brandon, I want to talk about this. Can we please hold off on crowning Texas national championship contenders?
Please. Oh my gosh, please.
Houston Baptist lost to Louisiana Tech 66-38 and was 2 points away from beating this Texas Tech team at home. And you're telling me this Texas Tech team was up 14 with 3 minutes left? And how about all the issues are we just going to overlook that Sam Ehlinger, yes, played well down the stretch, but third down issues, 5 for 16 on third down, Brandon. And they allowed Texas Tech to be 50% on third down conversions. Penalties, 10 for over 100 yards. Rushing, only 4.5 yards per carry against a Texas Tech defense that allowed, 700 yards to Houston Baptist last week?
Right.
And listen, Ehlinger, it does look great now. I mean, he ended with 262 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, but he had less than 150 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception before those final 3 minutes came around. Did he show he could be clutch in the final minutes? Yes. The Longhorns needed him to step up. He did. But let's talk about the Red Raiders shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly and giving this game to the Longhorns on a silver platter. I mean, Brandon, let's start with Alan Bowman's 3 interceptions that handed the Longhorns a stimulus check to keep them alive. How about the stupid missed onside kick catch that the Falcons would be proud of? How about the missed field goal, too? Because why not? I mean, the Longhorns were fortunate that this Texas Tech team played sloppy down the stretch. I have major, major questions about their potential. And yes, the Red Raiders' future is bright, but making that many mistakes against a top 10 team is never going to lead to a win.
Right. No, it won't. And, obviously the 3 turnovers didn't help at all. And I feel like you're disqualified from throwing up the horns down if you throw 3 interceptions like before that. That should be automatically take you out of contention for horns down potential throwing up.
Well, to be fair, he didn't throw the third one until overtime.
Okay, then 2 should disqualify you, Zach. Does that sound better?
Any.
Well, I feel like you can get away with 1.
And why don't you just wait to throw it till after the game? How about that? How about before we give Texas any more momentum? Well, let's just wait. You could do it all after the game. But listen, I don't have much to say about this game. I was upset about it. I watched most of this game. Ehlinger looked great late, but he just doesn't impress me during the game. The running game was weak. The O-line wasn't great. The defense apparently wasn't great. It was 56 points to Texas Tech, but I don't think they're going to compete in the Big 12, even though I guess no one in the Big 12 might compete. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but Texas hosts in-state foe TCU next week. Another interesting game. Texas Tech travels to Manhattan to face the red-hot Kansas State team, who we'll talk about a little bit later today. But, Brandon, we're going to move to our Big 12 pick for the championship. Oklahoma State pulls out a 27-13 win over West Virginia. And Brandon, I want to start this one off. I know you probably didn't get to watch this game because you were at LSU, but I can't believe that Chuba Hubbard might not be the best running back on this team.
I tried to tell you last week.
LD Brown deserves so much credit. I mean, he had over 100 yards rushing, a touchdown, and averaged 9.4 yards per carry. He's only 30 yards behind Hubbard for the season and is averaging 8 yards per carry for the entire season. I mean, he's showing how deep this offense really is. And after Hubbard leaves, Brandon, I don't think there's going to be a big drop off. And yes, Hubbard did get to 100 yards, but he had double the carries of Brown, only had one late touchdown. He doesn't seem to have that explosion that made me crown him the best running back in the country last year. Whether is he healthy? Is the O-line healthy? Is it the inconsistency at quarterback? I'm not sure, but we're going to have to figure this out if they're going to win the Big 12.
Well, yeah, and I feel like there's a little bit more to figure out too, because this team didn't look great, like by any means.
I mean, they looked great early. I mean, they were up 17-0 in the first half.
Right, but they didn't finish strong, Zach. Shane Illingsworth didn't look as good as I thought he could. I mean, he only had 139 yards passing this game, and no touchdowns, one interception. I get it. You know, it's your first start as a Division I quarterback, but man, something's got to give. He looked good last week, so I don't really know what's changed between then and now. I didn't think West Virginia was very good, so I don't think it's the opponent. I don't think it's the defense. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, LD Brown, let's go ahead and give him all the praise he deserves because he looked incredible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, speaking about Illingsworth, I mean, I watched some of this game. I had that multicast going, bro. I was all over the place with these games. I know, sick brag, but I mean, he was accurate. He had over 71% completion percentage, Brandon. I mean, he only had 139 yards and he also had an interception, but he had 0 passes attempted 10 plus yards on the left side of the field, Brandon. You want to know why?
Why?
Because guess where Tylan Wallace usually plays?
Right side of the field.
On the right side. He is forcing it to Tylan Wallace repeatedly, man. I mean, it is. If Tylan Wallace, wherever he lines up, that defense just needs to double him because that's where he's going. And, you know, he's been elite outside the numbers. I mean, he was 4 for 5, over 100 yards, 109 passer rating in those two areas. But his pocket presence, Brandon, worries me. There's no escapability. He panics. He either takes a sack or fails to make a play or turns the ball over. I know it's true freshman growing pains. We saw it with Bo Nix last year. I mean, we've seen it with just countless true freshman quarterbacks. But I have a lot of questions about this kid. I think he's a lot better than the other option, but until Spencer Sanders gets back, I think this team is going to be fighting tooth and nail to get wins week in and week out.
Right, I agree. I don't know, man. I wanted Shane Illingworth to be so much better than he showed this weekend, and he just wasn't. I wanted Chuba Hubbard to be better too. I mean, not only did he not have that explosiveness that you talked about, Zach, but he had 2 fumbles this weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, Oklahoma State recovered both of them, but 2 fumbles is 2 fumbles. I mean, that ball security is just not there.
No, I mean, Oklahoma State, their defense played outstanding again, man. This is why I still think they're the best team in the Big 12. 5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 9 quarterback hurries. They're fast, physical, played in the backfield. Trey Sterling's becoming one of my favorite players in the country. Another huge game with 9 tackles, a tackle for loss, a quarterback hurry. Brandon, this defense is playing disciplined, fast, just really, really good football. They forced another 2 turnovers this weekend. You know, and yes, Doge and Letty Brown for West Virginia had great games. I mean, Brown had 104 yards rushing, but he only averaged 4 yards per carry. And as a team, they only averaged 1.6 yards per carry. This Oklahoma State defense looks legit. I think it might be the best defense in the Big 12 right now. I don't have any faith in Texas's. Oklahoma's wasn't great. Baylor didn't look great yesterday. No. So I think Oklahoma State has a clear path here. They got to fix some holes. Chuba Hubbard's got to rediscover who he is. But if once Spencer Sanders gets back healthy, I think this team could really, really be in contention for this Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Zach, before we end this this matchup, I'd like you to do something for our listeners. And we did it last week. There was the introduction We're back at it again this week. Can you name the Oklahoma State player who led their team in total tackles?
No, I cannot. I didn't even mention him just for that reason.
Zach took him out of his notes, so he didn't have to mention him. I can't pronounce it either. If you don't know what we're talking about, go ahead and look it up. His first name's Amen, I believe.
Yeah, I can say that, but there was no chance on that one. I'll just call him. I'll just call him Amen O. He had a great game. He did have a great game. I mean, 13 tackles, I believe, off the top of my head. Yeah, just outstanding. He's all over the place. He's probably right up there with Trey Sterling for one of the best defensive players. But Brandon, Oklahoma State heads to Lawrence next weekend to take on the Kansas Jayhawks, while West Virginia has a huge matchup with Baylor next weekend. I'm really interested to see that matchup because Baylor didn't look spectacular either. So that one should be real fun to watch. But guys, we're going to move on to our first rank versus rank matchup of the weekend with Louisville at Pitt. Pitt squeaked out a 23-20 win. I say squeak sarcastically because this game should have been 45-0. And this game was all about Pitt's defense showing up and showing out while Mikael Cunningham shrunk in the moment once again. So, Brandon, your thoughts on this game?
First and foremost, I'd like to give Pitt a big shout out for the turnover dunks that they do. They do that on the sidelines. That's pretty sick.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's one of my
the best celebration in college football.
Yeah, wow, you're going to go ahead and crown them?
Yeah, we're crowning them, bro, because it's so basic to have a prop like a chain or a trash can if you're Tennessee or whatever you want to do. Or I don't know, Austin P, the top hat and everything, that's pretty legit. But I think I'm going to say that is one of the most creative and just awesome celebrations ever because it gets everyone involved. You get to dunk, you get to I guess customize what you want to do with the chain. You just get to put it on and make stupid faces at the camera.
Yeah. Hey, okay. So I don't want to say anything bad about Malik Cunningham. Do we know what happened? Do we know what happened to him? He's hurt. Do we know what happened?
I haven't got an update on it. I don't know if he's going to play next week. I believe I remember when he left the game, he wasn't playing good in the first place. So I don't think that played a big role, but I haven't heard an update on his condition yet. But if he's out, mark me down as Louisville not playing is not going to be very, very good.
No, not at all. And he was their only quarterback. Their only passing quarterback in this game. So, I believe he got hurt late in the game. Anyway,
yeah, he did.
Regardless, not a great performance out of him. 107 yards passing, and then you're like, well, he's also one of those dual threat guys. He uses his legs. Well, you'd be surprised. 3 yards rushing. So not good. Not a great showing out of Malik Cunningham whatsoever this weekend. The only reason that this offense is really on the board, you have to give credit where credit's due. Javen Hawkins, very fast. Tutu Atwell, great receiver. Other than that, this Louisville team, I don't have a lot of good things to say about them.
It's garbage. It's absolute garbage. Listen, I know he got hurt, but Mikael Cunningham deserves all the blame here. It does. He's played small all year, Brandon. It shocked me. He was supposed to be the next big thing. People were saying he could compete for the Heisman. That is blasphemy. That's ridiculous. 42% completion percentage, Brandon, 107 yards, a touchdown and 3 interceptions. Are you kidding me?
Right.
This game was an indictment on whether he could be a face of a franchise or not. He has some of the best weapons in the ACC, and he's putting up numbers like this.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. But listen, this was more about Pitt's defense. I think Paris Ford, another elite performance, 6 more tackles, consistently being in the right spot. Patrick Jones II was the MVP, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, another quarterback hurry. And Brandon, I'm going to change my tune here. I think Kenny Pickett played one of his best games of his career, in my opinion.
Which is bananas because he had he had 2 turnovers and 3 fumbles. So,
yeah. I thought he played good outside of those few. Listen, I stayed up late, watched a rerun of this game, and he won me over. I think his decision making is improving, Brandon. His wide receivers still have to help him out. Another 3 drop performance. They're setting records for drops out here in Pitt. I don't know if it's the stadium. I don't know if it's the gloves. The Nike sponsors Pitt, right?
Yes.
Why aren't they getting some good gloves? What in the hell is happening up there in Pitt? It's not even cold yet. You can't catch?
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on, man.
I would also like to point out that that Kenny Pickett may be a mobile quarterback. We don't know yet.
Yeah, could be. I mean, he could be mobile like Joe Burrow's mobile. But, I mean, his ability, Brandon, 0 to 10 yards down the field, 12 for 15, 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, and averages a 100 passer rating across all these areas.
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean, I mean, it's amazing. Listen, I want to see him push it down the field more, Brandon. I think he has the arm strength to do it. I think he has the experience to do it. I don't know if Pat Narduzzi is gonna push the issue. I think he understands some limitations. I think he plays to Pickett's strengths, and I don't think there's like a real deep threat on this Pitt team at wide receiver. I mean, they do have some talent at wide receiver, but I don't think there's a true like Tutu Atwell, Jamar Chase type of just like someone who can burn the defense.
Right. No, I don't know if there's that. By any means, but
I mean, I'm just using like the two bet. Like, I mean, like anybody with like high end speed. I don't see a lot of burners on this team.
No, I don't either.
But Brandon, this defense is going to be a problem for everybody. I mean, this Louisville offense was supposed to be one of the best in the country. 1 for 11 on third downs, 223 total yards of offense, only 3.9 yards per rush, 3 turnovers. I think Pitt has proven all the doubters wrong. They can compete with just about any team in the ACC, and Louisville seems to be on track for the biggest disappointment in the country right now. I mean, Mikael Cunningham has regressed. Kenny Pickett is improving week in and week out. I think these two teams are going in completely different directions.
I agree 100%.
But Pitt hosts NC State next week, and really and truly, based on NC State's performance, could be looking at a 4-0 record for the first time in a long time. Louisville facing a reeling Georgia Tech team coming off another loss this weekend to Syracuse. That's going to be a matchup of who wants to finish last in the ACC. Brandon, we're moving on. The 2 biggest games of the weekend for each of us. We're going to start with number 23 Kentucky at number 8 Auburn. Auburn pulls out the 29-13 win. It's that time, guys. It's that time. I told Brandon it was coming, so he's not going to be caught off guard here. I need you to take these next 1 to 3 minutes to apologize to Mr. Bo Nix and for your endless, uneducated disrespect to Mr. Nix.
I'm simply not going to do that, Zach, and I'm not going to do it because I don't believe that Kentucky's defense is a good defense. I understand. I came out before anybody else in this country on Twitter came out and said it. I renamed him No Picks. You know, he's no longer Bo Picks. He's No Picks. So you're welcome for that, Bo. But 16 for 27, 233 yards doesn't necessarily win me over, Zach.
How about the 3 touchdowns in the fourth where the ref called the kid's knee down on the inch-yard line, even though he definitely got in?
Yeah, that's pretty. I didn't know we were blaming referees, Zach. He also had 34.
We're gonna get to the referees in just a minute, so okay. You can keep going ahead. It's all good.
I mean, I'm not gonna apologize. It's as simple as that. Did he look good? Sure.
Can I call you out real quick? Can I please just call you out? I was thinking about not doing it, but you know what? Like, we're here to cause issues between us.
You don't want to
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we absolutely do. Because Kentucky ranked 9th in the country in terms of defensive production returning, Brandon.
Okay. Well,
defense isn't that good?
Tell me which one of Kentucky's defensive players had a good game this weekend.
I personally, I mean, I would say Jamar Watson had a decent game. Brandon Eccles had a pretty good game.
Watson had 3 tackles.
Yeah, he plays defensive end, bro, and like Bo Nix was getting rid of the ball. I mean, you gotta remember they held Auburn. It's in my notes somewhere. It was more about hurry. Yeah, they had 1 quarterback hurry, but they held Auburn to what? Like, I forgot how much yards they averaged rushing. It was 3 yards per carry for Auburn.
I'm just saying, man. Hey, listen. If Auburn plays somebody other than Kentucky, and Bo Nix has a good game, I already told you he's not Bo Picks anymore. So you should be happy at that. He's No Picks. You're welcome.
That game's coming next weekend, but we'll get to that in next episode. But Nix 60% of his passes, 233 touchdowns. Brandon, he graded above an 88 according to Pro Football Focus in most of the zones 10 to 20 yards downfield yesterday combined was 7 for 10, 144 and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
10 plus yards down the field. And he just seemed to be much more in control of the offense. He seemed much calmer in the pocket. You called him out last year for that. I called him out last year for that. I mean, his offense, Chad Morris in this offense made a huge difference. I mean, Brandon, the young offensive line out in pass blocking did pretty well. 1 sack, 4 quarterback hurries, like you said. But the running backs, man, I mean, Shivers, Williams, Bigsby, this O-line didn't do enough. 3 yards per carry. That's going to have to be better. But the true star of the game, Brandon, Seth Williams at wide receiver. I mean, 6 catches, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eli Stove also had a touchdown catch. They both graded really high in Pro Football Focus. And Brandon, you can't tell me this Kentucky team is going to be good. But you could tell inexperience and a lot of mistakes down the stretch really killed all the momentum. I mean, they had 2 turnovers in the red zone.
Right.
One from the yard line, which was taken back for a pick 6, which got called back. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But, I mean, Auburn had 0 turnovers. So when you have 3 and the team you play has 0, there's no way for you to win. Terry Wilson, he just didn't make enough plays down the stretch. But I thought he showed some ability outside the pocket, had almost 50 yards rushing, 230 passing, touchdown, interception. I feel like Kentucky, their offensive line played well, but the outside of their offensive line did it. The tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, when they had to step up and block, did not do as well. I mean, the Auburn linebackers and defensive backs played in the backfield consistently on those outside plays. Brandon, you called me crazy when I said this Auburn linebacker unit was one of the best in the country. The 3 starting linebackers combined for almost 30 tackles, a sack, and 3.5 tackles for loss. The leading tackler was KJ Britt with 11. They look fast, physical. They do need to stay disciplined. They gave up a big play early. But Brandon, before I get to roasting the SEC officiating, any other thoughts on this game and what went down in Jordan-Hare this weekend?
Would you like me to say something nice about Bo Nix?
I would love it.
He's a good punter. I think he's very good at punting. I didn't think he had it in him, but he did. He had 2 great punts.
Oh, he honestly might be the best punter in the SEC. That's outstanding punting. I mean, inside the 5 twice in the first quarter?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, 3 touchdowns, 2, listen, Ray Guy Award Bo Nix this year. I want it to happen. # Ray Guy for Nix. But Brandon, I guess the sequence before halftime really pissed me off. I don't know if you saw this or not because you were at the LSU game, where Kentucky thought they had a touchdown. They said he didn't. They marked him at like the 1. The next play, interception thrown by Terry Wilson, 100-yard pick 6, called back for targeting on a block, and then they went into halftime. It was a whole thing. But makeup calls by referees are the worst thing that has ever happened to sports. And Brandon, as 2 NBA fans too, they absolutely ruin the NBA sometimes.
They do. They really do.
And I don't get it. I mean, even the announcer said something about it. I mean, you mess up a call, right? You miss a call, you miss a foul on a drive by LeBron, you miss a call where Kentucky, maybe should have got a touchdown or something like that. But then you're going to purposely mess up another play to make up for it. And I don't think it was equal, Brandon. Okay, so his knee was down, but supposedly they weren't reviewing if his knee was down, but I don't think that matters. I think if his knee was down, you can't call it a touchdown, correct? That would mean that you would miss the call again on purpose.
Yeah.
So they called him down. They give you an extra yard, even though he went down at the 3. They give you extra 2 yards. Then on the next play, you call a targeting call for a defensive player who was facing the defender who blocked him.
Yeah.
And you get a kid ejected from the game for a makeup call?
It seems a little ridiculous. And was that in the first half though, right?
Yeah, that was in the last 3 seconds.
Well, good thing it was the first half, because if that was in the second half, I'd be even more mad.
Oh yeah, I mean it was on the last play of the first half. He got it, and it was a defensive end who got ejected for targeting, blocking an offensive lineman who almost grabbed the cornerback running the ball back. And the kid, and he was running up the sideline. He turned and looked at the guy coming to block him, got laid out. It was a hard block. I got you. But targeting on a defenseless player when he was looking right at the blocker?
Yeah, that's a little tough.
That's tough. That's real tough. And even if it would have went against Auburn, which I guess it kind of did because it took 7 points off the board, like, why are we, and the targeting rule still needs to be changed. That is the most ridiculous thing. Like, I believe they can stay on the sidelines, but can we get some intent in here? If let's say, accidentally the helmets collide, are we going to kick a kid out of a game?
Right.
Yeah, it's just SEC officiating. Brandon, you had a problem with it a lot last year. Well, I guess we both did. I can't believe that the SEC officiating still hasn't fixed it. But guys, we're going to move on to the biggest game of the weekend here. Before Auburn goes into their biggest game of the year, they have number 4 Georgia next week in Athens. That's going to be game day.
It's their biggest game of the year?
Right now so far.
Okay, yes.
It's the only top 10 matchup we've had so far. And
I thought you meant Auburn's biggest game of the season.
No. Just like the biggest matchup in the country so far. And Kentucky host Ole Miss in a big SEC matchup. That's going to determine a lot in the middle of the pack of the SEC. But this is the moment we've all been waiting for, guys. And yes, I didn't tell Brandon before the show I moved this game back to the last game we're going to cover. I did not think there was a better game to end this segment on. Yes, Brandon was in Tiger Stadium for this amazing game. Mississippi State, 44-34 upset. Brandon, I know you have frustrations. I know you have thoughts you've been holding in. You've been a good sport about this, but I know there's some demons deep inside of you got to release. So let those emotions out for all our listeners out there. What happened to your LSU Tigers, the one and done 2019 champions?
I don't know if you can say one and done if they've won 3 national championships since 2000, but yeah, one and done. Yeah. Ooh, no. Okay. So obviously this wasn't exactly the outcome that we all saw. It's not the outcome I saw. It's not the outcome Zach saw. It's the outcome that our friend Blake saw, but that's a whole different story.
Facts. He roasted us yesterday about that. He has been picking Mississippi State for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, never mind. Shout out Blake. That's all I'll say. Oh man. So during this game, this might be the quietest I've ever heard Tiger Stadium. I mean, the entire second half, other than the times that like Eli Ricks had an interception, that was really loud. But I mean, besides that, you're already at 25% capacity, and then LSU's not playing well. I don't even think they played I really don't think they played a good game whatsoever. But I mean, I looked over to my wife and I could just talk to her like I'm talking to the microphone right now, and she could hear me. And that's just not something that should be able to happen in Tiger Stadium. And it's something that happened this weekend. I don't know. It was almost like chilling, but I don't know. The chemistry didn't seem to be there for LSU's offense. And I wanted to make this like a little bit of a disclaimer before I even start into any of my like actual, I don't even know what you would call it. Before I even talk about this game, before my analysis, I'm not here to make excuses. Obviously, I'm on the team, so I have no reason to make excuses, but I'm not here to make excuses. I'm not going to say, hey, the officiating sucked. I'm not going to say LSU lost a lot of talent. I mean, that's all I'm reading online, but who cares? This year is this year, so let's focus on that. So if it sounds like I'm making an excuse, I promise you I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to give my best analysis. Imagine yourself in my seat right now trying to give this analysis if your team did something like this. So it's tough, man. I promise.
Bro, this is like a eulogy, bro. I'm about to cry. I need to get some tissues, dress up real nice.
I've had sunglasses on all episodes, so people can't see me cry. But no. LSU's the chemistry on their offense just was not there. Obviously, losing Derek Stingley, morning of, I guess he started getting sick the night before the game, but it wasn't announced until 3-4 hours before game time that he wasn't going to be playing. Yeah. Shout out to him, by the way. I mean, hope you get better. I don't really know all of the details, but apparently he had some kind of allergic reaction. There's rumors that he was having seizures in the hospital the night before the game. So I hope you recover well. Not like he listens, but I hope he recovers well. I don't know. I mean, the biggest problem for me was the chemistry on the offense. Just it seemed to not be there whatsoever. The defense, obviously, with the loss of Stingley. I mean, they have Jacoby Stevens, but they're really young. I mean, it's a new team, and this might have been the worst possible year to not have a spring practice for this LSU team who lost so much to the draft. I mean, we see new players come in. Jabril Cox played an amazing game. Jacoby Stevens had an amazing game. these corners, man, they're young and they're getting burned on every single play. It's not like high school. You can't go out there and lean on your athleticism to win these matchups. You have to play good quality SEC caliber football, and we just didn't see that. They're young, and I'm hoping that they can step it up throughout the year. But I guess what I'll say is that this LSU team, it's not the team they were last year, and I think they need to come to grips with that and try to find their own identity rather than leaning on the success of the previous season. Zach, what did you think of this game? Seeing it on TV and seeing it in person are two totally different things. You probably got to see angles I didn't see. What do you think the issues were for LSU, and where can you praise Mississippi State? Because I didn't even get into that. Mississippi State played an incredible game, but I'll get into that in just a minute.
Yeah, so I've actually watched this game twice. I watched the rerun last night, just to make sure, because it was intense, man. I got caught up in the game. I think I was more hyped into this game than even the Auburn game. It was that intense. KJ Costello. He has to be top 3 in Heisman votes right now, right? If after all the praise these experts gave to Sam Ehlinger and Spencer Rattler for doing what they did against UTEP and Missouri State, KJ Costello goes into Tiger Stadium in his first SEC game against LSU in week 1 and does this. And he doesn't, I even saw accounts giving the MVP of the week to Sam Ehlinger and other quarterbacks. I'm like, how is KJ Costello not a unanimous MVP of the weekend?
Right.
620 yards passing, Brandon, 10.5 yards per completion, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those were really bad. Those interceptions were really bad. Jabril Cox and Eli Ricks were in great position, and he just forced those passes. It was really, really bad, especially the Jabril Cox one. That was horrible. But Costello, he looked calm, he looked experienced, confident. Even after the interception, Brandon, I know you were at the game. They showed him on the camera right after he threw that interception to Ricks. He's laughing and joking and just hanging out on the sideline with his teammates. He didn't even care.
Right.
And that's because Mike Leach doesn't chastise his quarterbacks for making mistakes. As long as you're putting the ball in position and pushing the ball down the field, he doesn't care. Throw 5 interceptions, but as long as you throw for 700 yards and 5 touchdowns, he doesn't care. Brandon, honestly, I've never seen a performance like this from anybody, especially in the SEC. And if this is what it comes to, Mississippi State's going to be a problem. It is going to be a problem for most teams. But Brandon, you talked about Stingley a bit. The biggest weakness for LSU was Darren Evans. He was kind of thrust.
Gosh, yes.
He was thrust into a role he wasn't ready for. Brandon, Evans was the worst graded defender against all the top 4 wide receivers from Mississippi State and graded out at a 32 according to Pro Football Focus.
And that's crazy because, and I don't know what it is
with LSU fans and the culture that surrounds it, because it's toxic. It really, really is, Zach. You know this. I know it probably better than anyone, but you definitely know.
I feel like that's SEC football in general, though. I feel like every SEC fan base is toxic.
Well, because there's the group of LSU fans that are sitting here blaming the loss on Miles Brennan somehow, and I don't know how you do that. I'll get into that in a few minutes, and then there's the other half that actually watch the game and are like, oh yeah, let's put all the blame on Evans, which, come on, he I guess he deserved it if anyone deserved it, but don't go. Do that to a college player who had a bad game. He's a college student playing football for your favorite team, and you're going to sit there and put all this blame on him. You are going to chastise this kid on the internet. What kind of person does that make you?
Yeah, and Brandon, he allowed 5 catches, 113 yards, 22 yards per catch, and a touchdown, and all 5 catches went for first downs. No, the kid played really bad, but listen. Eli Ricks had to step up, and he did have that one breakdown on the touchdown. I believe it was second quarter, but he delivered and was the highest graded DB, even over Jacoby Stevens in the game. And he only allowed 2 catches on 5 targets. One did go for a touchdown, like I said, but he did have a big interception. My biggest thing is, Brandon, everyone focused on the Joes, the Joe Burrow loss, the Joe Brady loss, the Clyde Edwards-Helaire loss, etc. David Randall might have been the biggest loss for this program. In all actuality, he might have been the thing that broke the camel's back. I mean, this defense gave up 50% on third downs. And Brandon, this is going to break your heart. I don't know if you know this stat or not. This is real. I noticed it in the second quarter. This defense gave up 3 touchdowns on third downs.
Yep, I absolutely did, because Mississippi State, what do they convert? 8 out of their 15 third downs?
Yeah. Yep. And it was 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and 3rd and 11, Brendan, and they all went for touchdowns.
Yep.
And this defense was opportunistic. Opportunistic. I talked about Cox and Ricks earlier, but Brandon, you could for me, it wasn't the same Dave Aranda physicality, speed, scheme, everything that I fell in love with at LSU, because I love LSU's defensive intensity. I don't feel like it was there. I feel like, Stingley was probably one of the leaders of this defense. He wasn't there. I just think everything added up. And I want to play a little game with you, Brandon. We're just going to call it like Brandon's pie of blame.
Oh, sounds
good. You get 100% pie chart here. Dish out who deserves what blame.
So it's going to sound really corny right here, just because, I don't know. It just will. So I've got 25% of the blame going on Steven Sminger, 25% going on Bo Pelini, and 50% of that going on Coach O. I don't think that either one of these coordinators had their teams ready to play in this game this weekend. Like I said, the chemistry obviously wasn't there. Britton's running around in the pocket because he can't get a block all day long. This defense look intimidated. They look tired. As a matter of fact, I read an article this morning that said that LSU defenders were literally telling Mississippi State players that they were tired. So I don't know what that's about. And Coach O, he didn't get his players or his coordinators ready for this game. So there's my blame. I'm not going to blame these college athletes for what they did this weekend. They're young. Most of this team is. A lot of this team's inexperienced, and they just fell short. What else can I say?
Oh, man, that's tough. I didn't read that report. If that's true, that's an indictment on the culture that Coach O's got going on right now. You cannot be telling opponents in a conference game that you're tired.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. I promise.
Yeah, that is tough. But listen, guys, it's time for the person. It's time for Miles Brennan. And listen, I'll start this off by saying I think he had some bright spots, but there's a lot to fix moving forward, Brandon. His ability to throw deep and stretch the defense is there. And we saw that throughout the game, but his decision-making on those deep throws is not there. He was 3 for 8, 117 yards, Brandon, 2 touchdowns, but 2 horrible interceptions. That one, he just missed the safety underneath.
Right. Now, hold on. Now, I'm going to need you to reread those stats, because I think you're wrong.
No, this is just like 20 plus yards down the field.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. This isn't like his full stats, but Brandon, in that one touchdown play, or one to get him in the red zone, the safety he guessed that it wasn't going to go as far and could have picked it off. It should have been picked. It was in the second quarter. The safety just mistimed it, and it could have been picked. He's got to be better. He missed the safety definitely on the one interception, and then the other was just out of nowhere. His arm got hit, and it just ducked it into the secondary.
Straight to the safety, right?
Yeah, it was terrible. But guys, 58% completion percentage, not great, but it was all right. 345 yards, 3 touchdowns, good. 2 interceptions. It's all okay. I don't think it was terrible.
Did Zach, tell me this: did he play better or worse than you anticipated that he would? Did you think going into this week that he would have 345 yards passing?
Okay. I don't want to come off too critical. I think he played a little bit better than I thought, but I think the only reason he had those yards is because this Mississippi State defense is not good, and they got behind so quick that he had to throw.
Right. No, and look, I'm coming off sounding like I'm defending this player as much as I can. I'm only doing this because like I said, there's some toxicity among Tiger fans, and the first player they want to blame is Miles Brennan. And I just don't think that most of the blame, I don't think most of the blame whatsoever falls on him.
No, Brennan, my thing with Brennan is under pressure, he looked god awful.
Yeah,
shook. He bailed. Brennan, he bailed from a clean pocket. I know you messaged me about it. He did it multiple times. There wasn't even any pressure. They didn't blitz or anything, and he's just flying out. And it's not all on him. The O-line failed him. They gave up 7 sacks, Brandon. And under pressure, Brennan dropped to 40% completion percentage when he was under pressure, Brandon. 105 yards, an interception. He did have 1 touchdown, but that's the play where he hit the dude, and it really should have been an interception. It was the play where he just threw it up, and God forbid Eric Gilbert
and grabbed it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, should not have been. That's not a good play on Brennan's part. That's a good play on Gilbert's part, and a horrible play from the Mississippi State defense. You have to knock down or intercept duck passes like that, so especially in the red zone.
I'm in this group chat with a bunch of other LSU fans, right, from Twitter, and so I was sitting there right after that play. I said, I've never been more pissed off and excited in my life. As soon as he threw that touchdown, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to be happy, but I was mad. I was so upset that he made that pass.
Yeah, and I mean, the only positive player that I have anything positive to say this weekend about is Eric Gilbert. He was every bit of what LSU. I thought he played really, really well.
I also believe he played really, really well, but he's the only player. What about Terrace Marshall?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'll give you that. Okay, I don't think there's anyone on the defense I'm going to give a lot of praise to. I mean, maybe Eli Ricks, but he was an up and down day. I mean, the only thing I have a problem with this LSU offense is there should have been nobody on the field for Mississippi State who could hang with Terrace Marshall Jr.
Right. And
you're telling me I just don't think this offense made enough plays down the stretch. I really don't. Terrace Marshall Jr., yeah, I guess I can give him some praise. But Brandon, the running backs is where I want to get to. Clyde Edwards-Helaire leaving doomed this team. I mean, Chris Curry, Tyron Davis-Price, John Emery. What in the hell is going on there?
I think that's a little unfair.
No, it's not. Only Curry. Curry was the only running back who averaged 4 yards per carry or more, Brandon.
Okay, but they only had 27 carries this game. They passed the ball 46 times.
And that is a recipe for disaster, but they didn't do anything in those carries.
I don't know. I mean, they all averaged over like 4 yards a carry.
No, they didn't.
Okay,
only Curry.
Yes, only 5.2 and then 3.9 for the other two, Zach. Okay, sorry.
Okay, against Mississippi State's defense, Brandon.
Okay.
And if you factor in sacks and everything else, the team as a whole averaged 2.1 yards per carry.
Right.
The offensive line, I think, is LSU's biggest problem. I think the defense is going to be okay down the stretch. Miles Brennan is going to be okay. Those wide receivers are elite. Let's be honest. I think the offensive line is the biggest question mark right now after this weekend. That's my biggest takeaway.
No, I agree.
Can the offensive line gel together? Because, Brandon, I don't think there's a single defensive lineman from Mississippi State who's going to the NFL.
No, probably not.
None. What in the world is going to happen when Alabama comes rolling into town with their 7 NFL potential first-round picks?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a good question. We'll answer that later. But, Brandon, to end this segment, I feel like we got to talk about Mike Leach. I mean, he started with an absolute bang, and there were so many skeptics, me, myself, and you, and everyone else. I mean, everyone's like, man, this air raid is not going to work in the SEC. Well, oh crap, yes it can. I mean, are you kidding me? The DBs and linebackers against this Mississippi State team are going to have to play almost perfect, because it doesn't matter if KJ Costello goes 0 for 10 in the first quarter. Mike Leach is going to have him throwing down the field every single play.
And you know what's crazy, Zach, is that, if you were watching the game, you realized, they aren't running Kylan Hill. Like, he only had 7 touches. That's because he had 8 receptions for 160 yards.
Yes.
I mean, this kid, he had to be in the equation somehow, and there he is. And that's the second best running back in the SEC in Mike Leach's system.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that's how they used him, to be completely honest with you. I was kind of like, we talked about it in the preview, they had to get him the ball somehow. He's too good not to. But, Brandon, LSU is the first, and I know it's rough, but I don't think they're the last victim of this team. I think this air raid offense is going to burn some teams. And, honestly, Brandon, if I would have told you before the game, be honest, that LSU's defense would have 5 sacks, 8 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, what would your score prediction have been for that game?
I don't know what it would have been, but I can tell you that whoever they're playing isn't scoring 44.
Exactly. The defense really put up some good stats. That's why I think it's going to be okay. The offensive line is the biggest worry for me. Mike Leach had a great game plan, and Bo Pelini, Brandon, I know it's early, but I think there are going to be some pissed off LSU Tiger fans that will be good. They're going to be calling for his head if this happens again.
Look, I'm pretty sure that LSU fans have been calling for Bo Pelini's head since the last time he left, so I'm not surprised.
Brandon, here's a positive, though. LSU moves on to face Vanderbilt next week, which could get ugly because LSU is going to be pissed off in that game.
You hope that's true. Hope that's the silver lining. You really have to hope that.
It's true because we're going to talk about Vandy almost beating a top 10 team in the next segment. But
because man, oh god, we have a whole other segment.
Yeah, we do. It's not going to be as long, but we got to cover some games. But guys, Mississippi State moves on to host Arkansas, who also had a pretty good weekend, I guess, if you're considering first halves. But guys, we're going to move on to our last segment here. We're going to get this wrapped up pretty quick. We are rolling here over an hour already for you guys, but we're just going to call this one Top 25 Chaos. Yes, we covered some of the biggest, most hyped games of week 4, but we have some games that have to be talked about here. We had upsets, close calls, and Brandon, I think we had some major question marks arise for some of the biggest contenders in the country. Yeah. Let's go ahead, start with the biggest upset of the weekend in Norman, Oklahoma. We had the Kansas State Wildcats overcoming a 21-point deficit, Brandon, to upset the number 3 Oklahoma Sooners. Brandon, what in the hell is happening in the Big Ten this season?
I don't know what to think. I have no idea what to think because I thought Kansas State was bad. And I thought Oklahoma was good. And now I don't know if Kansas State's good and Oklahoma's decent or still good and Oklahoma State or Kansas State's great, or if Oklahoma's just bad. I have no idea. I have no idea what to think, Zach. Or maybe this is like an Alabama Ole Miss in like 2014, 2015 situation where this is just like this is Oklahoma's kryptonite. I have no idea, but someone's got to get something figured out in Norman because you cannot go and lose to Kansas State for the second year in a row.
No, especially after that. Brady, you want to make? I'll make this worse for you. I know you were at LSU at the LSU game. Kansas State was missing 7 starters.
That's insane.
COVID.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they were undermanned. Brandon, just the stats of this game don't even make sense. I mean, Oklahoma outgained them by 117 yards. They had 18 more first downs. They won time of possession. They were up 35-14 with 2 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And Kansas State scores 24 unanswered points.
Right.
It's just, and it really all stems. Okay. I know everyone wants to crown him the next big thing. I know everyone wants to say that, oh, it's Oklahoma. They'll be okay. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Guys, 4 turnovers against Kansas State.
Right.
That can not happen. I mean, Spencer Rattler, yes, I get it. He's really good. He has a big arm. He's explosive. He had 3 interceptions against a K-State defense that was down 2 starters. And I promise you, an elite quarterback's not getting outscored 17-0 in the fourth quarter by Kansas State.
No, he's not. He's got to get it figured out. And we know that we hope he has it in him because we've seen this kid play before. Shout out to Netflix for that. But man, come on. I mean, something has to give.
Yeah, and I mean, Brandon, everyone's talking about, oh, well, Spencer Rattler, look at what he showed in these other plays. I mean, he threw an interception to end the game. Just completely overthrew a target over the middle of the field. How about Skylar Thompson throwing for 334 yards and a touchdown?
I mean, we knew he had that in him too. Great. I mean, insane quarterback. I'm not sure exactly what happened last weekend. But
well, I mean, look, he had a good game against Arkansas State. It's just like he had no help.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, I don't think you could blame Skylar Thompson for anything. Sure. He outplayed Spencer Rattler, getting no credit. Brandon, he hit 72% completion percentage. Also had 3 rushing touchdowns.
Which is nuts.
Absolutely. And Deuce Vaughn, he's 5'5", guys. And he had 129 yards receiving and 45 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Crazy.
And no one's talking about it.
Because it's Kansas State. Nothing happens
No one.
there.
And Brandon, I want to ask you this. Okay, so I think we have three contenders really and truly for the Big 12 for the playoffs. We got Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Texas. None of which have looked impressive. All of them could get upset any week now. This might be an overreaction. I know if Texas wins out, they're fine. Oklahoma State wins in, they're fine. Oklahoma wins out, they're probably fine. I think the Big 12 is the conference with the Pac-12 and Big 10 returning that might get left out of this college football playoff.
I mean, I could definitely see that. I could see that if we don't see a rebound out of Oklahoma, if Oklahoma State doesn't start playing better, because Oklahoma rebounded after they lost to Kansas State last season. They ended up looking good for the rest of the season. Other than the two games against Baylor where, they struggled, but that was against a really good Baylor team.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm worried. And the Big 12, I know, made a call down to Lubbock. If they had Texas lose yesterday, I think you could have wrapped up their playoff hopes because Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Texas all still had to play. They beat up on each other. The two best teams out of those have to play again.
Right.
So, and with Texas Tech and Kansas State beating these two teams, I think any week, everyone on the Big 12 is on upset alert. Baylor didn't look great against Kansas last night. I think this conference is going to be on the ropes. I think this was an amazing upset for K-State. Shout out to Chris Kleiman, man. Brandon, the biggest takeaway for me is we see teams who get upset real big in week one, like a loss to Arkansas State. They just collapse. Like, okay, so yes, they could rebound and upset a team, dominate from whistle to whistle. But for a team to lose to Arkansas State, be down 7 players, and be down 21 with a quarter left and still make a comeback on the road?
Yeah.
I think that shows heart. That shows the culture, the discipline, everything that Chris Kleiman is building out there in K-State.
I agree.
1,000%. But guys, we're going to move on here. We're going to briefly cover these next 3 games. We're not going to break them down too much. We're just going to talk about some implications of things we saw. Brandon, let's start with the Georgia Bulldogs. I know the score says 37-10, guys. This was 7-5 Arkansas at halftime.
Right. They should have been.
Brandon, what is up with this Georgia offense, and do you have any confidence in their ability to rebound?
Yes. Unfortunately, I think that they will rebound. I don't know, man. Obviously, I didn't watch this game either. Just because I was not at home, but dude, it was one of those things where every single time I saw the score update, I was like, wow, yeah, I think Georgia might legitimately get beat this game, at least for the first half. The second half, obviously they came back and the score didn't really indicate how the game actually was, right?
No, because Arkansas had 3 I believe it was 3 turnovers in the second half that Georgia either returned for a touchdown on that play or scored like 2 plays later. They scored 22 unanswered in the third quarter. And DeJuan Mathis, man, for him to be what Kirby Smart thought was the best quarterback to play, and he gave you a QBR of 9, Brandon, against Arkansas.
Nah, can't do that.
8 for 17, 55 yards and an interception. Felipe Franks looked actually pretty decent. He did have 2 late interceptions. That is what it is. But 200 yards, a touchdown. Georgia's got to get it figured out, Brandon. I mean, I know I'm an Auburn fan, so I'm trying not to be biased here. But if they play like this against Auburn, it's going to get ugly in Athens next Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely it will.
It is going to get bad. And guys, this is why me and Brandon were so high on Florida, and anyone who critiqued us can shove it now because Georgia almost lost to Arkansas. So until we see anything else from the Georgia Bulldogs, leave us alone on that.
I really want to get back to Instagram. I really, really do, and talk to those guys.
It's all good. But guys, we're going to cover these next 2 games together. A&M, Brandon, escaping Vanderbilt at home with a 17-12 win. Also a game where the halftime score, Brandon, was 7-5. I don't know when's the last time that happened in college football, but I'm assuming it does not happen very often. And you had Tennessee escaping South Carolina with a 31-27 win in which, Brandon, South Carolina was going to get the ball back to go score with a go-ahead touchdown. They muffed the punt.
With bananas.
It's just insane. So your thoughts on A&M and Tennessee barely squeaking by, and I think A&M is the much, much bigger concern for me right now.
No, I look, you can't just hardly squeak out a win against Vanderbilt and be okay. Tennessee, I think we all expected this out of Tennessee. They're Tennessee, and they played South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina is just awful. And I think a 4-point win over them, if you're Tennessee, I mean, that's a division opponent. That's fine by me, whatever. We can live with that. But to beat Vanderbilt by 5 points after losing to them for or not losing. I don't think they were ever down to Vanderbilt, were they?
No, they weren't, but it was a close game. It was a 3-0 final, fourth quarter. So it was 14-12 for almost the entire fourth quarter.
How do you give up a safety to Vanderbilt? I'm trying to figure that. I've been trying to figure that out for I don't know, a while.
It's a bad look, guys. I mean, Kellen Mond put up a 32 QBR.
Pretty good.
Against Vandy.
Yeah.
Vandy, guys. And he was not dynamic on the ground. I mean, I don't understand how we have any confidence in Texas A&M to compete for the West like this. They looked god-awful this game. Vandy looked a lot better. And Brandon, it doesn't help that they have to travel to Alabama next week to face the Crimson Tide. And then the week after, they have to host Florida. And then guess what? They get to go to Starkville and get roasted by that air raid offense, man. They get 3 back-to-back-to-back horrible, horrible matchups. I mean, A&M could be sitting at 1-3.
Yeah, no, and we would love to see that. I really, really would.
I don't know, man. That's Jimbo Fisher. The hot seat's about to be yours right there next to Jim Harbaugh if you don't get this together. This is a little bit ridiculous. Listen, Tennessee, Brandon, you said we kind of expected it. They had a pick 6 interception that helped them. They had a muff punt. South Carolina made a tough run in the second half, even tied the game at 21 at one point and 24 in the fourth quarter. Tennessee down the stretch made enough plays. 2 turnovers for South Carolina, none for Tennessee really was the difference. But I think you could say the Volunteers are going to be middle of the tier SEC for right now.
Right. Absolutely. We all good over
that? Yeah, we coughing out here. But guys, it was an amazing week of college football. We're going to wrap up this episode now. Give you guys an hour and 20 minutes of content, man. We had to get to all these games. It was an outstanding weekend of football. Social media, Instagram is at @_Bluebloods. Facebook at the Bluebloods pod. Was the Twitter at the __ Bluebloods. Our YouTube channel, Bluebloods CFB podcast. Go check out our website, bluebloodspod.com. Your boy coming out with some articles this week about this crazy weekend. We got some preview articles coming out. Stay tuned for that. So definitely go check out the website. Look out for that on all our social medias. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Available literally everywhere. College football is ramping up. So are the Blue Bloods. Announcements on live streams and other stuff coming soon. So tune in for all that stuff. But for right now, guys, we out.